Just finished having an amazing chat with Usman Kayani. He's an extraordinary guy who's generated over $5 million in sales, and how he was able to replicate his successes in multiple businesses using his blueprint. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
So you're an actor as well, yeah?
Yeah, I act. So I've done like a few commercials, short films, and I was featured on. I don't know if you know The Fall Guy. It's coming out in May.
The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy.
I don't know it now.
That's with Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Winston. So he was on the Black Panther.
Okay, amazing. This is so sick. And we just shot this in Australia then?
Yeah, we shot it down in Cronulla, which is more the south of Sydney.
Good on you, man.
Thank you.
Obviously, as an actor, these opportunities are very hard to find.
They are, and it's just like, I find like business, like you want to be able to network your way through it, to be able to pave your way to opportunities.
And yeah, that's incredible that you've done that. And then now, that compounding effect, it's very hard in the beginning to get that ball moving. But I bet when you've had that small win, it gives you inspiration that there'll be more wins.
Absolutely. And like I find it's all about like what you and Giuliani probably spoke about is like leveraging relationships and finding a way where you can win-win and help each other grow.
Yeah, like I really think in like an abundance mindset where everyone can win. And a lot of the times when I speak to potential clients or potential people that I'm going to be working with, just how they see the world, whether they're a pessimist or an optimist or what type of mindset they have, I know if they're the right fit for me.
Yeah. And what do you find is the common trait with a unsuccessful coach compared to a successful coach?
An unsuccessful coach thinks they are an amazing coach and that they deserve to be busy. So they believe, I am an incredible coach. Why hasn't the world not made me busy? Rather than, what is it that I'm missing? What have I not figured out yet? Well, how can I figure that out? And they see it more like a puzzle, like I need to figure it out, rather than why is it not here already? And then they look at others and think, why don't I have that? Why does he have that? The mindset is very much not accountability driven. It's driven towards blame.
And you find that's patterns from picking up other people's behaviors growing up is the reason
Those
why.
patterns are, so there's two sides to me. Sometimes I can think very mindfully and think about this person as like, their patterns are because of their environment, their upbringing, how they see the world, and whatever their viewpoint has been. But very much that mentality doesn't serve of how I build my business, which is as a capitalist. And how I build my business is very much, well, if they don't think this way, they're not my type of person. I've got to move on and not spend any time thinking why. I can't spend time judging why they think that way. So I quickly move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why there's like two sides always from my thinking. I have a very much like quite a mindful side, but I have to almost think, well, I'm going to put that aside just to keep moving.
That's great. And for those that don't know him, so this is the intro. This guy is an extraordinary seasoned entrepreneur. He's the founder of Guided Growth. He has coached businesses to about 50K, closing over 50 million in sales, known for building and selling free businesses, and has coached over 600 coaches. Welcome, Usman Kayani.
Thank you. Nice to be here. And regarding the coaching businesses to a certain level, we coach businesses to about 3 million per year. And in Aussie dollars, that'll be around 6 million. And then for a lot of online coaches in the UK, in pounds, which is just about half the currency, we have like, they're hitting about 50K months. And when we can hit them to that mark, we now know what the next stage is and how to grow them.
Absolutely. And do you find there's a certain blueprint you teach in order for them to get there?
Well, the program that we begin with is called Blueprint, one of the early programs, because when someone's starting very early on, we have the program Blueprint where we just teach them the basics, the 5 basics of business, which is literally making your branding, doing your offer, making content, lead generation and sales, and just going through 5 steps with them in a clear blueprint format. So every single person that we onboard and take on, whether it's working in a group format or a one-to-one format, we have a clear timeline where we can predict how they will perform over time.
That's incredible. And for the coaches out there that are a bit hesitant right now to join your program, what would you say to them in order for them to reach out to you?
Well, it's very much what's stopping them. What is stopping them from growing, understanding you are an amazing coach, you know how to coach people, you have all this experience, but that's the first thing that you need. You need the skill. And then you either lack the ability to bring people into your ecosystem, or you lack the ability when people are in your ecosystem and they're asking how can you help them, you don't have the ability to close them and sell to them. And you don't have the ability to sell to them for a lot of money. So you can't sell to them for $2,000 plus, because it's very much, you want to know how to sell high ticket. And when you can sell high ticket, you're able to build a bigger business and give even more. So it's all very much abundance mindset driven in charging more, delivering a better service, and building a better business.
Absolutely. And I feel a lot of personal trainers out there that are working in gyms doing about 60 sessions a week, they tend to be burning themselves out and they don't realize there's actually a better way to be able to build their business and have more financial freedom.
If I think of this PT who's on the gym floor, now let's say they're working 40 hours. I'll go for a busy PT, whether it's Sydney, London, or wherever they are. If he's working or she's working 30 hours a week, you also have 20% of your time, which is admin, which is 20% of that 30 hours additional to those 30 hours is texting, cancellations, organizing the odd diet change or whatever it is. And those 6 hours are never paid for. So that 20% is always additional. Then you have another 10 to 15% of traffic going to work, coming to work. And that's also there as well. Or it's more for some people if you live in the city. So as you are a PT on the gym floor, you're almost a slave to your calendar because you're just stuck. It's so hard to break out of PTing people hour on hour, back-to-back sessions. You don't know where you're going to find the time to start making content and do that. And that's how we introduce it. We have a clear formula of you're a busy PT, and this is the first thing that you need to do to taper down your PT sessions to start building your coaching business without you losing any money.
That's awesome. And you've had an extraordinary career so far. And you were telling me earlier that you have this incredible LinkedIn profile as well. And now you're paving your way into Instagram.
Yeah, so I've been on Instagram for now, for about a year. I don't see Instagram as social media. I see it as business media. So to me, business media is not for my friends and family, because that might be a separate page. My Instagram is for showing what I stand for, what my purpose is, what my mission is, and being able to connect with the right people. I always say I don't want to be well known. I want to be known well. So when someone does meet me, because of my Instagram, they're able to meet me and think, I know him. I feel like I know him. And that to me is the win. The audience growth comes over time, and everyone is chasing virality and audience growth. But the win for me is actually someone meeting me and saying, I've been watching your stuff and I feel like I know you. And that's been happening more and more now. And as that happens, that's the win. That's the whole use of Instagram for me. Where on LinkedIn, it's very professional, caption driven, not video driven. So there's a clear barrier of how well someone gets to know you.
That's incredible. I find it's a lot like acting in a way in terms of being able to put a story out there where you can really connect with the audience to find your ideal client when you.
Yeah, and in the beginning, I was like, I'll work with anyone. But I realized I can't work with anyone. I have to work with a specific person. Because in the very beginning, 20% of my clients would get 80% of the wins. So, and that worked out. That's not the right way. And that was because I wasn't attracted to the right people. And now when we get someone on a call, we want to vet them. We want to make sure they're a good coach. They can actually provide a good service. And then by us vetting them and ensuring they're a good coach, we then can take them through our process and guarantee a win for them.
That's great. And how did your journey begin in terms of your entrepreneurship journey?
Okay, so very early on, as a teenager, I think I was always a kid that had that used to always haggle, because I think it was a combination of being poor and being like very chatty. I used to go everywhere and I used to love haggling for anything. So if whatever something cost, I would always think, how can I get it cheaper? And me walking away with it cheaper used to make me feel like as though I got a better deal. And as I grew up, obviously that's not the lesson in business, because you want to let other people win at times. But my early jobs were very much working from a restaurant all the way to a call center. And as a teenager, it was very much communication jobs, restaurant, serving tables. And that was probably the hardest job I've ever done as a kid. And then I worked in a call center, and that year and a half in a call center is how I actually did all the reps of speaking to people on the phone and closing, because it's very much telesales. So those people that you find annoying calling you saying, hey, do you want to buy this thing? That was me. But I needed to do that job to have all that rejection early on. That rejection, those phone calls that used to get hung up on me and people saying, why are you calling me? And then the people I used to close, those early reps allowed me to save enough money for my gym, which I opened a gym in 2012, which was an independent gym in a low-income area. And I co-founded it with a friend of mine. We opened the gym, we grew the gym, for around 2 or 3 years before the gym then grew and was sold years later. So that was my early start in entrepreneurship, working a job, getting a core skill, using my passion of training, lifting weights, and opening a gym. So that was a very early part for me.
That's great. And how did you feel when you were running the gym?
I didn't know what I was doing. At the time, it's easy to say, yeah, I was an early business owner at 19 years old and I knew everything I was doing. I actually was very reliant on my co-founder, and he was he was steering the ship. And it took me a long time to realize that I didn't really know what to do. Therefore, that's why I went back into work. So most people, I had a very different journey to most entrepreneurs because they become an entrepreneur and then they never go to work for someone. But what I did was I didn't know what I was doing as an entrepreneur. So I went to work for someone, and I worked in a career for around 8 years after that. And in that 8 years, I learned operations and systems and all the things I needed to. Because when I didn't have the money, I couldn't pay for education. What I could do is get a job and find good mentors and line managers within my job to mentor me. And that was my way of finding knowledge, but doing it within a job.
Absolutely. And having a good mentor is just so important, especially in terms of following a certain roadmap to success. It can pave your journey, like actually win so much quicker than if you were to do it on your own. Like, I feel if it was something that might take you about 10 years, you can do that in half the time just with the right blueprint.
100%. And I'd say even less than that because you can save someone so much time. Exactly what we do now for others is what others did for me.
That's great. And after you sold your first gym, what was your next step from there? Were you interested in starting from scratch in a new company or?
Okay, so I was the kid who was always hustling in some way, the side hustle guy. So even though I had a job, so straight after I sold the gym, I worked for a job. So I worked for leisure centers, and then I started working for large gym chains, and then I kind of worked myself up for a large gym chain. But in that time, whilst working at a gym chain, I was doing every side hustle you could think of. And like if the internet was around as it isn't like as prominent as it is now, I would have been doing everything online. But at the time, you think of it, I used to buy protein tubs and sell them. I used to anything I could buy and sell and flip trainers, whatever it was, I would do because I would just had that mentality. I need to having multiple sources of income. I've changed that now. I've changed my mindset on that now as I've grown, but that was all I could think about. I need to have multiple sources of income, side hustles, and my job. And that's what I was doing.
That's great. And it's so good now that we have social media as a tool where in the past, like a lot of people weren't so fortunate where they actually had to really grind in a different way and it was a lot harder for them to put themselves out there. And I feel now where we have TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, there's so many ways you can actually build your ideal audience in order to gain customers.
100%. I used to only be able to sell a tub of protein as a kid to the guy down the street from me, but now I can sell it to someone in another continent. That wasn't possible for me as a kid. How was e-commerce possible? I wouldn't be able to know where to start, but now I'm able to do it because we can just learn how to do it online. You can literally open a Shopify store on a free trial. You can learn how to run an e-commerce store on YouTube for free. So it's a new age of business because you could never start a business in the past. If you think about our parents, starting a business was expensive and you risked your mortgage. That was how we saw business. If you open a business, you're risking your mortgage, you're risking your livelihood. But now I can start on a free trial on a software. The barrier of entry has never been so low, and entrepreneurship has never been so easy.
Absolutely. And it kind of made me think because the other day I was just watching a few documentaries and there was one guy, his nickname is David DAngelo, but I can't remember his actual name.
Yeah.
And he was one of the original people who started funnels.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was doing a lot of pickup. He was working with guys like Name Mystery and RSD before there were big names. And he was creating this book, How to Double Your Dating. Right. And once he actually delivered that, he actually had an upsell from there. And it was like How to Kiss a Girl. And he knew way ahead of time when the internet just started kicking off to actually go down that direction.
Very much so. When I first started learning about funnels, it was like a big world to me because I read Russell Brunson's book, .com Secrets. And when I read the book, I thought, I don't know any of this stuff. I'm so stupid. It made me realize what I don't know. And then it made me realize how simple it can be. And then, like this, I read this almost 3-4 years ago now. Someone actually, a business mentor, told me about this book. And then I learned it's just there's a whole nother world, and how we actually can get someone to enter our mousetrap, AKA funnel, and then get them to join or get them to sign up or get them to click the button. And that's exactly what a landing page is for.
No, that's great. And it's so good. It's like you actually having that experience when you're going to the shopping center where you have that assistant guiding you to buy like a certain toolkit. And it's like, okay, you can go from here, you can upgrade to actually hold all your tools in this case because it's going to benefit you more. And it's crazy how we can just use that from a funnel now.
100%. It's incredible. And like my core skill was sales, and now we've combined that marketing side to our business over the last few years, and that massively has helped us grow because marketing allows you to find new people, and sales allows you to close those people that the marketing has allowed you to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And who is one mentor that really changed your life and perspective in your entrepreneurship journey?
In my entrepreneurship journey, it's very different to my working career. But my entrepreneurship journey, I would say, so I had my co-founder of the gym very early on in 2012, and he had a mindset which was just relentless. He would just go out and just have an idea and do it. So you kind of, he taught me the power of action. Where in my working career, when I had another mentor who was managing hundreds of staff and was managing me and I was a middle manager who was managing other people, he taught me how to become an overseer, an operator. And those skills I can use now in my business when I'm hiring and when I'm operating larger businesses and helping other businesses grow. So the two mentors that stick out to me are one within my working career and one within my entrepreneurship, but they both have helped me right now in my business.
That's great. And for someone that's actually struggling where they're just more of an operator in business, but they're looking to be able to work on building the business, what advice would you have for them to have that freedom to be able to build on the business?
So what was your question?
So if there's someone out there that is an operator in their business, where they're just stuck within the business, just working inside of it, but they want to be able to build on the business and have more financial freedom to be able to have more time to do so.
A good method that's worked for me is just a process of eliminate, automate, and just thinking like that. Eliminate, automate, and delegate. So any task that's coming up to me regularly, I think to myself, can I eliminate this task? Can I automate it? Or can I delegate it? And delegating is the last thing I do because it costs the business money. So the first thing that I do is think about how many things am I doing every day that I can automate. Because 5-6 years ago within business, you couldn't automate as many things. And now we have so much automations and AI tools. I think of how many things am I doing daily to automate? And then for that business owner, if he can simply do that thing, that should free him up more time to be able to act on the business and not do the day-to-day tasks. So in the beginning, you do everything. You're the sales guy, you're the marketing guy, and you do every part of the business. But as you grow, you need to know when to hire your first assistant. And I would say now, as soon as the business reaches 10K thousand in pounds per month, or if it's reaching $20,000 per month, you should be hiring an assistant because you've got to win back your time. So it depends where someone is on their entrepreneurial journey. And if they're in the very beginning, you got to do everything yourself up until you get to a 10K mark. And then I would say hire an assistant for about $1,000, $1,500, and now give them all the tasks that are taking up time for you, the editing and Canva and all these things that you shouldn't be doing. And then you gain back your time. And then this is a process that we use for a lot of our entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. And if you were to be stripped from all like the money you've made in previous times and to start again, what would your process be knowing the knowledge you have now in order to generate the same success as you are now? Like,
it wouldn't be so different to what I'm doing right now because the first thing I would do is just open my social media pages and brand my business, think about what is the core message for my business. That's the first thing I think about. I want to open a business. What problem am I fixing? After I know what problem I'm fixing, I'm talking about what's my blue ocean strategy towards fixing that problem. How can I be different to everybody else? And why is my message different to everybody else? After I do that, then I would simply just post and use social media to post my message. So it is that easy. Even before I have a product to sell, I would be making content. Because when you think of any successful brand, like think of a t-shirt launch. Before they've even got the stock of the t-shirts, they've already done a pre-launch because they've gathered the money for it. And now, like, I own sports rehab clinics for 3 years when I was doing the sports rehabilitation and a lot of osteopathic medicine. When I was doing that for a lot of patients, I was able to open clinics by selling in advance for sessions for months down the line for a clinic that wasn't open. And as soon as it was open, I was able to open the clinic and then start serving those clients.
That's amazing. And what inspired you to start up those clinics?
So the natural progression as a side hustle guy was I'm PT, I own a gym, and now I know enough about fitness to now think what else can I do? And the passion was taking people out of pain and doing the rehabilitation side. So naturally the qualification of sports massage. And then as the next qualification after that was becoming a spine specialist and doing additional nerve qualifications and acupuncture qualifications. And then as you go deeper and deeper, you start to learn more and more about the body, and you realize you can help so many more people. So the first thing that I did was I was doing sports massage, and that was whilst I was working at Virgin Active on the side. Then I ended up having a friend who worked at the GB team, who was a runner for them. He got me into the GB team. After I shared that on social media, a few other businesses contacted me saying, "Hey, can you help us?" And before I knew it, I had the money for a sports rehab clinic. I rented a clinic, sold out sessions on social media, and because my sales ability was so good, even when my skills were lacking as a therapist, I was able to sell a lot of sessions. But then that allowed me to put the money into education and be even better. And then what I quickly did was, even when my competition were physios and I was only sports massage, I would put my price higher than theirs. Because what that would do is I would get people to think the perceived value, is he better? And a lot of the times you go to a physio and they literally spend 45 minutes on an assessment and don't get you anywhere, and they book you in for 5 sessions. I don't know if you've had this before. We'll fix it next time. But what I did was I was so set on fixing them that session that ended up helping me grow my business, because it would refer someone and I would put in a lot of work into every session, and I was priced more. So I was more expensive than the physios, less qualified, putting in more work, able to help clients and getting referrals. So very quickly, I grew that business within a 3-year period to a good amount, where I shut the business down last March, sold 1 clinic and shut the other 2 down to really go all in on my consultancy.
That's great. And I love how you were actually working inside the business and actually hustling and really figuring out how the business works and being able to do the hard yards. And I love also the fact that you weren't just charging per hour, but you're more paying for the results.
Yeah.
And I feel that's what creates more success, is when people just pay for the results rather than just per hour.
Yeah, I would, as soon as I would see someone and they would inquire, I wouldn't tell them how much the session would cost. I would say, "What are you struggling with?" "I have shoulder pain." "Okay, I will fix your shoulder pain for you." I wouldn't say, "Let's do 3 sessions." I would sell it based on what the pain is and what they're going through, and then understand that. And then after the first session, I would just tell them very honestly, "This is going to take you time to fix. You've had this pain for 6 months. I can't magically touch you and fix you in 45 minutes." And then over time, the word spread on how within that London area, within the northwest London area, my clinics grew very fast. And a lot of the competitors were not very happy of how fast I was growing. So I remember there was a phase where I had picked up a lot of clients from many of my competitors, and I was not as qualified as them, but I was giving a way better service and I was doing more for them. So that allowed me to put out a great offer and grow my businesses really quick, which allowed me to then catapult my second consultancy business into allow me to grow even quicker, because I had all those skills from there.
That's incredible. And how was like your upbringing in London as well, when you were before your entrepreneurship journey? And
So I grew up 3 hours north of London, in Sheffield, which is a town in the Peak District. Very much it's a small town. It's the 4th biggest town in the UK, but it's very much a town, not a city. And then my parents were immigrants that came here from Pakistan in the 70s. So they came to the UK in the 70s, and they struggled, and they were like on welfare, as you would call it, and they fed 7 siblings, so 7 kids, and they gave us all the direction. Very traditional household. So if you know an Asian household, it's very much tradition built, and also religion is a big component in that. So that's really how the upbringing was. As a kid growing up very poor, but you're not understanding that you are poor. You don't know that you're poor. You don't have the self-awareness that you are actually not doing so good, but you're just existing.
that's crazy. And it's funny, every book that I ever read, the first thing to change is having that self awareness and accepting the fact where you are.
Self-awareness for me is like there's levels of self-awareness. So it's the deepest part of your mind being self-aware. And the ultimate self-awareness for me has been understanding your own bad habits and patterns, being able to see yourself and your life in a third person point of view. When you can do that, you are truly self-aware. It's one thing being self-aware, thinking, yeah, I'm kind, I'm nice, I'm this way. That's one level of self-awareness. But the true level is actually seeing your own bad habits and patterns and being able to change them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I feel that's what really changed me through my journey when I was an athlete, because you identify these patterns. So, a little bit about myself, I came from a background where I had, or I still have, dyslexia and have had a speech impairment as well. So, I was told growing up that I would never be an athlete or do anything that was like academically successful. So, I don't know. For me, it's just identifying what you have, but not being able to focus on what other people say about you, but focus on paving your own way, knowing the fact you might have this, but you can always improve on it. And that for me was through sports, and also I know I was teaching myself through reading books more than I was learning at school.
Yeah. And sport is like really good for self-development. I just didn't have it growing up. I was just the kid who stood on the sidelines. And it doesn't look it now because you think, oh, he always played sport. But I didn't up until 16 years old when I first joined the gym. I was the kid who never bought his kit to peace because of low self-confidence and not being able to take part.
Incredible. And what do you find is one book that has changed your life?
So now these days I listen to a lot more audiobooks. But the one book. So originally when I first started a business, I would say things like the Rich Dad Poor Dad and all these books, and now looking back, I think they're just very much beginner generic books. But the books that actually teach you are more tactical books and books that make you think differently. So a book that I absolutely loved was this Robert Cialdini's Influence, The Power of Persuasion, which teaches you how to persuade and influence people. That to me was a massive book. The two like other books that have massively helped me were I was very naive as a kid. So when I read 48 Laws of Power, it made me think of the world in a very different way because it made me think, how are others taking advantage of me? Because when I was working a job, a lot of people see 48 Laws of Power. You know the book?
Yeah, I know the book. Robert Greene.
Yeah. See the book as very dark, malevolent, Machiavellian. But when I read the book, I thought, oh, this is what everyone's doing to me. This is why I'm not being able to like get progression within my career because everybody else is doing these tricks on me and I couldn't see it. So the book made me self-aware. So it didn't make me think, oh, I can get my power on the world in this way, which a lot of people think from that book. So it taught me a different lesson. But then when I read a lot of Stoicism and a lot of Ryan Holiday books, which was Robert Greene's mentor, then I started to learn a lot about being just living without judgment. And then those two books kind of balanced me because it made me think in a certain way, which was how to think like a snake but act like a dove.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Thinking like a snake, so I can spot other people who are being conniving, but I act like a dove because I want to be as pure as a dove, and I want to be like have high integrity and have a clear mission where I have a great reputation, but I can still spot everybody else who is a snake.
That's deep. That's really deep.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's what those two books actually taught me. So one is more of a tactical book, The Influence, but the other two books were very much teaching me self-awareness and mindset and how to actually become the type of person I need to be.
That's incredible. And if you were to speak to you at, let's say, 16-year-old now, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say don't spend so much time lifting weights and getting lost in the journey of chasing muscle. Spend more time building your mind. Spend more time building your business career.
That's incredible. And I just want to thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, man. Nice speaking to you.
Definitely. And hopefully we can do an interview again in the future.
I'm sure we will.
Definitely. Anyways, we're out, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and see you soon.